If you type Hollow Knight into the Nintendo Switch eShop and look at the 2023 releases, only one game shows up, Hollow World Dark Knight. I haven't been keeping up with the news lately, but I'm assuming this is the new Hollow Knight game everyone's been feverishly wanting for the past several years, so I bought it on sale for $5. Because I care about all of you, I didn't want to be like every other boring YouTuber and make a video about just one game. So I looked at the Hollow Knight developers library to see what other award-winning games I could find. While the Hollow Knight purchase was easier than my ex-wife after 2 shots, I was soon faced with an impossible task. Do I buy Best Sniper Legacy Dino Hunt and Shooter 3D, or do I buy Best Sniper Shooting Hunter? Price was no obstacle as my videos generate literally hundreds of views, so I looked at the descriptions for each. Both have next-gen bullet time effects with every sniper headshot, and both have zombies. I ultimately decided on Best Sniper Shooting Hunter because it's newer, has a bigger file size, and is more expensive. Those are all telltale signs of a good game, right? And just when I thought the tough choices were over, I was faced with another. Jumpy Mia and Super Mike Classic Adventure Game are 2 platformers released in 2022 that appear to be the exact same game with only different characters. While Super Mike has epic boss fights and breathtaking graphics, it apparently doesn't have any levels or smooth gameplay. So I went with Jumpy Mia, which has 100 levels, beautiful graphics, smooth gameplay, and lots of jumping. These are all things people look for when buying an $11 game. With all that nonsense out of the way and my eShop wallet noticeably lighter, I was finally able to enjoy what would surely be masterpieces and not asterpieces. So, if you're going to call your game Hollow Knight and release it in the same year as Hollow Knight 2, players will have some expectations. First, it should be an action platformer. Second, it should be good. Well, Hollow World Dark Knight isn't either of those things. In fact, it's more of a side-scrolling Hades clone than anything. The really bad news is that it's wholly uninspired, repetitive, and can't even be beaten. The good news is that it made me appreciate just how much work Supergiant put into Hades, because Hollow World is what happens when a developer tries to copy a great game but not put in the effort. In all honesty, they should have called this Underworld Boy Escape Dungeon Hell Action Survival instead. It would have been far more accurate. Oh no, did I just give them an idea for a sequel? Gameplay in Hollow World is absurdly straightforward. You're locked in a cramped arena, enemies spawn from the portals in the left and right, and you kill them. Once all the enemies in that section are vanquished, you walk to the right for a few sections, then the whole process repeats. That's literally the whole game. In Hollow World's defense, there is some depth here. Like the other games it's copying, you start out weak, then progressively get stronger as you level up, unlocking new moves with which to bash your enemies. Unlike those other games it's copying, Hollow World does it poorly. Instead of a straightforward upgrade system, you're constantly collecting an insane amount of random materials which you then use to craft things to improve your character, who was called Warios. I'm not sure if they misspelled warrior or that's actually his name, but whatever. And in an odd move, there's loot boxes. There's no microtransactions though, so you spend in-game currency or wait for the timer to count down so they unlock naturally. The whole upgrade system is handled in such a weird way and I'm not quite sure why. Once I figured it out though, I was unlocking new items and spending my coins wisely. So just like my daughter when she was born, it's not as ugly as it may seem at first glance. Also, I don't know what it is about these shovelware games and not having music, but outside of the main menu, there's no music. Just the urge of enemies as they die and the pitter-patter of footsteps. Another staple of these, can I call them cash grabs? I highly doubt they've made enough money to be called that. Anyways, there's also a large number of obvious spelling mistakes, like Glover instead of gloves and bosses instead of bosses. For the gameplay, unlike Hades, where you fight in different settings, encounter interesting characters, and have intense boss fights, Hollow World just kinda does the same thing on repeat. You have to clear it on easy first, which isn't a bad thing. You're so weak at the beginning that even on easy, it's not easy. Part of that has to do with the stiff gameplay and inability to properly dodge enemies, but it's still a smart move. Unfortunately, everything's just so boring. There's no secret sauce hidden in these buns, and I'm someone who enjoys it when somebody fills up my buns with their special sauce. You're seeing it on screen right now. All of the gameplay I'm showing you is from different levels, except you can't tell them apart. All the levels look the exact same, the same few enemies keep coming on you, and when I found the gameplay trick of just constantly jumping around while attacking, it became insufferably boring. But just like when I put up with my annoying ex-wife for the full 36 hours she was in labor, I was ready to see this through until the end. Well, on easy at least. I'm not insane enough to beat it on every difficulty. But Hollow World had other plans. In level 2-3, everything seemed the exact same as it had always been. Except now I couldn't attack or use any of the buttons on my controller, though I could move around for some reason. So due to this game-breaking bug, I had to stop. You can't skip levels, and normal only unlocks once you clear all 40 easy levels, so unless I wanted to replay early levels for no reason, or spend more time in the painfully easy arena, there was nothing left to do. While I saw glimpses of a potentially passable game hidden deep inside Hollow World's darkest orifice, overall it's a disappointment, and that was before I couldn't progress through the game. The fact that it shows up when you search for Hollow Knight is another butter knife in this game's muffin. Avoid it at all costs and just go replay Hades for the 100th time. You'll thank me later, and you'll also think of me the next time you're playing with yourself. Now we come to Jumpy Mia, which, based on the screenshots, appeared to be a terrible Mario clone. After playing it though, I gotta say, it's quite impressive just how blatant of a Mario ripoff this is. When it comes to copying ideas or just copying other games in general, if it's good, it's a homage. If it's bad, it's a cheap knockoff. Jumpy Mia lands in the second category. So let's do a comparison, shall we? There's the first enemy you can jump on and squish, that's a Goomba. Then there's a shelled enemy you can jump on, then kick their shell, that's a Turtle Man. There's also pipes that take you to a subworld, except there are tree stumps here, so I assume Mia is a lumberjill. Then the level ends with you running up stone steps before you hit the flagpole and enter the next level. But just like my ex-wife on our first night together when she told me how much worse I was than her husband, let's talk about everything Jumpy Mia does wrong compared to the original Mario game, which came out nearly 40 years ago. For starters, there's no run button, it's just walk and jump. I assume there will be a sequel called Runny Mia that has it. Second, where Mario had catchy, iconic music that still holds up today, the music in Jumpy Mia has the same annoying as hell 5-second diddle that plays on an endless loop. Seriously, you could use this to torture even the most hardened people, and they'd tell you their favorite toe within minutes. And because the copying isn't obvious enough, Mia does shrooms. Except instead of joining a cult like my ex-girlfriend Mia, who now goes by Sunshine Sparkle, and was thrown into an insane asylum for attempting to blow up the moon so it's sunny 24 hours a day, Jumpy Mia just changes color. Yeah, instead of embiggening Mia or turning her into a firebender, the developers basically just had her change from Mario to Luigi. Oh, and remember that part about the flagpole? In a Mario game, it's automatic. You ride that long, greased-up pole all the way to the bottom, and Mario walks on his own to the next stage. But Jumpy Mia is not like other platformer characters. You have to manually walk her to the next stage. It's just such a weird choice. Why would you take so many of Nintendo's ideas and cut corners along the way? So, you know when you're in the delivery room waiting for your wife to finally push your daughter out so you can go home? With Jumpy Mia, I was waiting for the developers to innovate so I could play some good levels. Unfortunately, that never happened. It's all just a soulless Mario ripoff, which doesn't even stand close to the game that released before anyone knew what an internet was. Since I'm trying to power through this game review like it's a practice girl, I'll briefly touch on the controls. They're flighty and at times imprecise, but passable overall. However, there's an absolutely baffling choice where holding up or down on the analog stick causes Mia to walk automatically. There is no crouching here. This means that if you're trying to see if a stump works, and it doesn't, you're liable to drop off the side of a cliff and lose a life unless you remember to test every stump with the D-pad. It makes no sense to me. I mean, who doesn't want to play with their stick every chance they get? To give a little credit to Jumpy Mia, it's kind of like Hollow World in that it's a step up from useless shovelware. It's still not worth buying, but I've played Switch eShop games that were far worse. For an example of some of that innovation, there is a small variety of enemies. While they're all mostly rooted in Mario mythology, including Beedrill and Gary from SpongeBob, at least it's not a complete 1-1 copy. Also, there are 100 levels. However, and I'm not sure if this is intentional, but remember how Hollow World breaks in level 2-3? Jumpy Mia has an impossible jump in level 23. Maybe I missed a stump you're supposed to slip into along the way, but I couldn't convince myself to keep playing and look for it. Oh, and you do go underwater at times. Plus, the boss levels are actually decent, and you'll even get to beat off a scorpion at the end by jumping on it roughly 30 times. All that being said, the best Jumpy Mia level doesn't come close to being as good as an average level in Mario Maker 2, so don't go thinking I've gone soft like my last night with my ex-wife when I knew it was all over. Just like Obi-Wan Kenobi, the last game in this video is my only hope. I know I've been a little harsh up to this point, so I'll go into the last game with an open mind. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a good thing Jason Bateman decided to become an actor and not a headmaster. But you're wrong. Look again, it has the word best in the title. That must mean it's really good. And the description says it has an epic story. Needless to say, my expectations going into this were higher than Sunshine Sparkle when she asked Elon Musk to build her a rocket to the moon. For starters, there is no story in Best Sniper. You click the game icon, then you jump right into shooting dinosaurs. That's it. I think it takes place in a post-apocalypse world though, because the first level has the Statue of Liberty buried under some sand. And while calling it the best at anything might be more of a stretch than when Sunshine Sparkle said I'd be doing the universe a favor by helping her sneak onto Elon Musk's rocket, Best Sniper is actually kind of okay at times. There are several problems with the game, but shooting dinosaurs is handled decently and the sniping isn't too janky, though the controls for moving your character are handled on the same Joy-Con as the controls for aiming. Wait, I just realized that last comment might be a little confusing. Your sniper can only move a few feet in either direction, sort of like the players on a foosball table. Yeah, it's not done great. At the beginning of the game, Best Sniper's levels are super easy, barely an inconvenience. You jump into a level, shoot a T-Rex in the face, and congratulations, you win. Then you do the same thing over again, except now you shoot a different dinosaur in the lungs. That's where things do get a little interesting. There are stipulations to certain quests, so you have to use the X-ray feature to highlight their vital organs and hit them in their weak point. Most of the dinosaur AI forgoes that whole self-preservation thing though, as they always wait a few seconds before dispersing after seeing their friend's brain splattered all over the place. I guess that would explain why the meteor wiped them all out. And there's even levels where the dinosaurs can attack you, all culminating in a rather tense QuickTime event. So overall, the gameplay isn't horrible. But there's a lot holding Best Sniper back. Aside from the ease, they give you far too many missions. There's 30 main missions in the first map alone, alongside 6 mutant missions. In order to access the mutant missions, you have to upgrade your gun far enough, except you need a lot of money to make it happen, so you're forced to complete those main missions, which don't vary very much in variety. And just like Hollow World, there's a stupid microtransaction economy where you have to wait a certain amount of time for things to happen. The whole upgrade system is poorly implemented and it's a major turnoff. Like when Sunshine Sparkle asked me to call her the Sun Goddess while we destroyed every bottle of sunscreen in our city. According to her, we shouldn't have any barriers between our bodies and the life-giving light. What's hilarious is that this game has zombies. They show up about halfway through the first map, except instead of being called zombies, they're actually dinosaurs called humanosaurs. You don't actually hunt them though. They just appear in maps and will menacingly shamble towards you. You can headshot them, but that might cause the dinosaurs to run wild, so it does add an extra layer to the experience. Probably my biggest problem with Best Sniper is the lack of highly detailed zombie feet. My second biggest problem is the targets. Some body parts are teeny tiny, making hitting them a real challenge. And not the good kind of challenge, the frustrating kind of challenge. You have to keep changing the sensitivity because if it's too low, you have to spend 10 seconds moving around the screen. And if it's too high, even the slightest nudge on the analog stick will make you go wild. But even with all these problems, I'd have to give Best Sniper the nod for best game I played in this video. But that's like saying you prefer Bruxish over Dunsparce. Neither Pokemon is a good option, you just have to pick one. Bottom line, in no universe should you be spending time or money on any of the games in this video, they aren't worth it. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go visit Sunshine Sparkle in prison and pretend like her mission succeeded so I can continue getting those conjugal visits.